Hey everybody, welcome back to the Full Circle Network. We are back with our spoiler discussions, this time for Far From Home. At the time of recording, this is the first day it came out. We all just saw the first day Tuesday screenings, and we got a lot of thoughts. I think a lot of us are pretty positive about it. This has been a very anticipated movie, obviously the sequel to Spider-Man Homecoming, and the second Spider-Man movie of all time, which is pretty crazy when you think about it. So I'm going to go around, as always, get everyone's spoiler thoughts before we jump into a deep spoiler discussion. So Jackson, our editor-in-chief, why don't you go ahead and give us your non-spoiler thoughts?
Yeah, well, thank you. Caleb was so excited he forgot to introduce himself. So, that's Caleb, if you didn't know.
Sorry, Caleb. I just like this movie a lot.
Hey, we're all ready to talk about it. So yeah, I mean, everyone here saw Far From Home. I mean, this was probably one of the, in an interesting way, this is one of the most highly anticipated Marvel movies in a way since like Iron Man 3, if you're like comparing the two. Because, phase one of the MCU ended with the Avengers, and then everyone was like, where are they going to go from here? And Iron Man 3 did that. Now this has even upped the scale to the point where, Avengers Endgame came out 2 months ago. The entire world is like, where are we going from here? This felt like an end. It felt like a definitive end. But they opened this world up even more, and in the best possible way. I thought this was a wonderful movie. I thought they put Spider-Man in the forefront in a very positive way. I don't really have a lot of complaints. I mean, a little slow to start, but once it kicked off with everything it had, and I was thoroughly entertained. And I mean, this is a top 10 MCU movie for me, easy. And we'll go around the horn, but yeah, I really love this movie. Marcos, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, what's up, Marcus Melendez, managing editor. So yeah, I saw it, today, Tuesday, 12 o'clock screening, pretty early, which is nice, it's usually at Thursday night. So Tuesday in the morning, saw with old people, that's fine. Yeah, it was really good. I mean, I had high hopes for it because I loved Homecoming, and some people didn't, but I did love it. So going into this, had high hopes, I will say. They were surpassed. I do think this is a little bit better than Homecoming. I think that a lot of people's complaints from Homecoming about Spider-Man specifically will be kind of dumbed down because of this one. It kind of just answers everything. Point one, like, the action is better. The overall Spider-Man's arc is better. I feel like this is the best MCU Spider-Man he has been so far. I mean, I think he was great in Homecoming and in the Avengers films. But I think this is peak Spider-Man MCU, and I think the most important take that I find after this film is after the Endgame, after that huge movie, he's finally his own hero. I think that's like the biggest thing I took away, and yeah, certainly wasn't disappointing at all. I do have some complaints, but that's more in the spoiler territory, so I'll talk about that later. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Now we have for Jacob Campbell. Yeah, what's your non-spoiler thoughts?
I'm glad you asked, Marcos. Honestly, I'm sick to my stomach. I have a new least favorite MCU film and Spider-Man film. Like, I obviously expected that it to be a bad Spider-Man movie, but this just broke me. I really feel sick. I haven't felt this way since I saw Batman vs. Superman. It takes everything that worked about Endgame, makes a joke of it. It takes everything that was promising about Peter, and it just makes a joke of it. I'm sick right now. But no, I really liked it. I thought it was a great movie. I don't want to say too much because we're going to get into it in a moment, but I thought it was an awesome movie.
Very wide, diverse opinions from Jacob.
Yeah, I just really wanted to capture the full field of how.
Yeah, that's a real inside joke there. So if you're confused, don't worry about it.
Honestly, it's not very inside. If you've been on Twitter today, this week after you saw the movie, you know exactly what we're talking about. But
at least it's inside for me because I've never heard of the person that everyone's been talking about. I have no idea who this is, so I'm just
same.
No earthly idea.
Yeah. So I mean that's a good jumping off point into something I wanted to bring up. We can discuss a little before we go full spoilers, and that's just kind of like a little bit of the toxicity surrounding Spider-Man as a character on Twitter. I'm not going to name any names, but if you literally look up the words, all right, never mind. you know who we're talking about if you look up the words Jacob just said. But people have been so. There's a lot of very. It comes from Raimi fans. It comes from the MCU fans. You don't see a lot of Andrew Garfield fans out there. I'm sorry. They're not really on the
Come
internet.
on, they exist. They're out there.
I mean,
Yeah,
everybody knows they're
they're
just
in
kind of
hiding.
there. I mean,
We know one.
The-
I mean, you know.
One.
they got one thing going for them. They're not as toxic as some of these other Spider-Man fans, but they just find like it seems like some people went into this movie as a non-Spider-Man MCU fan just wanting to hate it, and obviously if you come in with those expectations for I think almost any movie, you're gonna wind up not liking it to like its full potential. I mean, I'm sure Jacob has seen this big Twitter user. Like, have you guys seen, like, what are your thoughts on just people being so negative to each other? Like, people get in arguments about the best interpretation of a character, a fictional character who has been around for I don't know how long. Like, when there's different interpretations that they don't like, they just get in a fuss about it. Like, what do you guys think?
Yeah, I've actually never heard of him, but I do know quite a bit of like the toxic Spider-Man talk has been pretty recent, just as following days until Far From Home comes out. And I don't know, it's kind of weird because I mean, like, he's already had a few movies. Everyone loves him. Raimi had his time. There's a trilogy. You guys can still watch it. You guys still like it. You can still like it more than these. But I don't understand this competition where one, it has to be better. Two, it has to be the same. So I don't understand that. Because I mean, look, Homecoming, Far From Home, they're specifically their own thing, and they're specifically a John Watts movie. Does not Sam Raimi's trilogy. So it's kind of weird. People are just kind of constantly comparing to that. And it's also a different time. If you watch these movies, there's a lot. It's very although Spider-Man, it's very grounded into our current reality, and that in a reality where there's buses and saving people from trains here. What?
What kind of tangent are you
What
on
do you-
right
what do
now?
you
What are you
say?
talking
I'm
about?
really
Trains?
curious where this
I
is
was
There
going.
were
lost me
there were no buses or trains in the Raimi trilogy.
Yeah, I'm
I
like,
was
what?
kind of with you for a moment.
Yeah,
Then you
but I
started
was
talking
like,
about
wait,
transportation.
I was like, where's
Where were you going with that? Okay.
There's buses,
All right, Marcos, you're done.
There's
I think we all get the
but
point.
just cut it off halfway through where I started.
No,
getting
I'm not.
smarter.
There's,
Just leave it in.
there's
Just leave it
planes.
in.
There's automobiles.
All right,
All right, let me jump in real quick, and then
all right, you got it. You got it.
Yeah.
Spoiler
Rowboat.
thoughts.
Yeah.
I think a lot of this stems from the fact, and there's a lot of this in the DC fandom as well. I try to stay away from it on Twitter at least, but it always pops up on your timeline somehow, one way or another. What I think a lot of this stems from is the fact that people love to hate popular things, and I think that has a lot to do with a lot of the issues and the toxicity on the internet right now. The MCU is one of the most popular franchises, if not, no, it's the most popular franchise of all time. Like up there with Star Wars, and people love to hate things that people love, and people like to keep their niche little, smaller groups. And the Raimi films, as as critically and as financially well as they did, it was a long time ago, and people people put it to the wayside for the most part. If you're not a big fan of like movies, or you're not a big fan of like the character, like most general audiences have forgotten about it. So people like to keep that in mind, and the way they do that is by shooting down the thing that people like now, because of the thing they liked before. The Nolan Batman fans are like, that's the definitive Batman, and we'll never get another Batman like that again. And it's like, well, why can't we? Maybe Robert Pattinson will be that exact thing. How do you know? You don't know. So, Tom Holland for the most part is universally loved, but people just don't like the direction because they don't like the MCU, and they don't like to like popular things, and that's just my take on it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
I-
Jacob, do you have to say something?
I do. I have a thing. I honestly, I really agree with Jackson on this one. It's people like to hate things that are popular because they think it. My thing is they always think that they think it makes them interesting. They're like, oh, I'm different. I don't like what everyone else likes. I'm different like that. But it's not. It's honestly just kind of you can like your own thing. You don't have to like what everyone else likes, but it doesn't make you more interesting than anyone else. And I feel like that's what a lot of the Spider-Man fandom is their issue is. And I see it on Twitter a lot. It's honestly kind of true. No one hates Spider-Man more than Spider-Man fans because they refuse to accept anything different than their own interpretation of the character. And it's hard like that with characters like this that have existed for decades. They change over time so that there's not one definitive version of this character. So being closed-minded to a new version of it, it just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, and
Caleb, do you have any?
I'm just saying, you can get a different writer on a comic book from one issue to the next, and that writer could have a completely different vision for the character than the previous writer had. And I think we're lucky enough that we have honestly 4 separate like film adaptations of the character of Spider-Man, and they're all unique, but they're all one person's vision for the most part, unless you count Sony, the studio as a whole, with some of those other Spider-Man films. But the 3 live-action Spider-Man and the Into the Spider-Verse, that's like completely different and unique adaptations of Spider-Man, and there's something there for everybody to love. And there's no reason you should have to completely, base your whole lifestyle on hating one of them just because you think yours is the best. You don't have to like it, and that's fine, but you don't have to make people feel bad for liking a different thing either. But
and one point I'll throw in just for one last thing before we jump in. Like what's interesting to me is that we didn't see this kind of reaction when Spider-Verse came out. It's a different medium, it's an animated movie, but it was a different Spider-Man, and the purists didn't come after that the same way, but they came after this because it's in the MCU and they don't like the version of the character for whatever reason. So, they've come out in droves to attack it, which I don't think is fair because, they're all different interpretations. Both the Peter Parkers in that movie were different than the Peter Parker in this movie and were different from the Raimi one. So I just don't understand like what their purpose is, but they can be mad at whatever they want to be mad about.
yeah, and I think that's enough. We could talk about this all day, but we are here for one thing, and we're already like 10 minutes in the podcast, so let's jump right into our spoiler discussion for Spider-Man: Far From Home. I'll go ahead and start. I like to get the negatives out of the way, and just keep it positive for the rest of the show. But I gotta say, the first half of the film, I don't think there's really anything wrong with it, and I wouldn't even say it was slow, but I would call it inconsequential to me. And by that I mean it was just like it didn't feel like it was really making an impact or really going anywhere. Like obviously I could see what they were setting up and kind of the arcs they were setting up for characters, but it all just kind of felt, I don't know, like there wasn't a lot at stake. And I get that was kind of the fun high school part of the movie before it got into like the really serious stuff, but it didn't quite have like the impact that second half had. But I also think watching it with the context of seeing the whole movie, which I think I'm going to see it again tomorrow, and knowing what they were going to set up later on, I think I'll like it a lot better. But that being said, that second half if the whole movie was like the second half, it'd easily be my favorite Spider-Man movie. But that had the best, that's probably the best on-screen Spider-Man I think I've ever seen. And that's saying a lot, and including, every interpretation, including the animated ones. And Spider-Man 2 is still my favorite, and I think it's just because it's more consistent throughout for me. Whereas if it wasn't for this first half being not as high quality as I thought the second half was, I think this could have been the greatest Spider-Man. But, it's still up there. It's right there. So, Jackson, give us maybe some of your negatives and then, a little bit of what... I mean, you also said you didn't really have many complaints, so just
yeah, I don't have many. I completely agree with your point on the beginning of the movie. The first act, for the most part, being slower, not slow. Like there were things happening, but it was slower. One thing I do want to point out, just because we're talking about the opening, is how great like the opening intro was. The slideshow that they showed at the very beginning of the movie, which I didn't know where they were going with at first, but opened to a really, really great scene. I thought it was honestly hilarious, and one of the it's the perfect Spider-Man way to like tackle as serious a thing as Endgame was. But yeah, slow first act. Couple choices here and there that were like, oh, okay, it's a little convenient, but there wasn't anything major I had. Once it like I said, in my non-spoiler thoughts, once it kicked into gear. So yeah, I'll hold off on any complaints. Yeah, I'm good. Marcus,
I'm gonna repeat what you said about the first act. The first act was a little slower, a lot slower than the last 2 acts, but it was still entertaining. I was still thoroughly entertained. I was just wondering where it was going, but once Mysterio kicks in and then Nick Fury visits, it gets a lot more entertaining. But I will say another complaint that I had: if you have a phobia for drones, and this is not your movie, there's a lot of drones. A lot of the plot, if you're scared of drones, don't watch this movie. A lot of the plot revolves around drones, and although it works especially in the last battle, it works a lot. I thought I was very entertained. It kind of gets in the way in the middle, and there's like a sequence on the bus where he's trying to what's his name, Ben? The
Brad.
character Brad.
Brad.
Brad has
Brad.
a
I was
photo
pretty
of him.
close. Okay.
And,
Brad.
and he almost
Pretty
kills
close.
Brad with the drone. Yeah.
Yeah. It was good. It was fine. But if they cut it out of the movie, it would be completely fine.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
I said right before we started recording, I think that was in there because of just the slow pace of the first bit of the movie. They needed something a little actiony to throw in there, and they got the slow mo shot of Peter jumping out of the bus and breaking the thing. And I mean, it was fine. Like you said, if they cut it out, it'd been fine.
Yeah, that was one of my not. I didn't love that scene. It was all right. The scene itself, I think, was fine, and I kind of like the situation, and it set up the drones that Mysterio uses later on. So like you kind of know what it is like he's using. So I think they did kind of need that to introduce that. They maybe could have done it a different way, but I just like for me it was weird that Tony Stark gave Peter like this pair of glasses that could have a kill strike on someone and like with literally like a voice command. And I get that like it's this all powerful thing, probably has all these other uses too, but it was just like a little off to me that like Tony would even have that because that's basically what Shield was or Hydra was doing in the Winter Soldier, like trying to like kill people at like the flip of a switch. But
You know what's funny?
It's
Now
a
that I
minor
just thought
thing.
about it. He did the same thing to his suit in the first movie. He put an instant kill mode on it. So
yeah,
it's
I mean, if we know anything about Tony Stark, he's
not
not
the
a
most responsible guy.
Yeah, I mean, he's no like if it were Captain America doing that, I'd have a lot of
Yeah, there'd be
complaints
no
with it.
killing modes.
So I can let it slide. It's a minor complaint. Jacob, you want to give us some of your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with all of you guys. Honestly, about the first arc of the movie, it did feel a little bit slower than the rest of the movie, pace wise. But what I did kind of like about it was it felt very similar to Homecoming, where it's like Peter Parker's just a teenager and he's just hanging out in high school, and it had that same kind of vibe to me, where it's just like he's the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. He's just he's doing his thing there, and I liked that because that's one of my favorite aspects of the MCU Spider-Man. He's the superhero and he's an Avenger, but he's also just a kid from Queens doing stuff, and I like that about it. Yeah, I don't know,
Doing stuff,
but it was a little bit. Yeah, he's just doing stuff, dude. I also really liked it talked about the snap, because we really didn't get to see how that worked out in the blip. Yeah, sorry, that's what they're calling it, the blip. So we didn't get to see how that affected everyday people in Endgame. We only just saw it with the superheroes and everything, but it kind of explained what happened to just everyone else, which I thought was kind of cool. But besides that, I don't really have any other complaints about the movie. I thought it was great.
Okay.
Caleb?
Yeah, well, one thing I'll point out is I've seen some people complain, and this goes back to, Spider-Man Twitter, that John Watts, has no style, and he, wasn't really a good fit to direct the Spider-Man movies. And, I think when you're comparing him to someone like Sam Raimi, who, I will say he is an amazing director, has, very clear style, and what he did for Spider-Man and, superhero movies in general, that's unprecedented. But, John Watts, if you look, because I watched the first movie right before watching this one, and the way he just incorporates the high school grounded feeling into the Spider-Man movies, it's just it's unlike any other movie in the MCU, and they're very distinct in tone, in the way they're presented, and like you said, Jacob, it feels like a high school movie. And even when they go to Europe, and you feel like these are kids, and especially what I really like too is the love dynamic between Peter and MJ. They have these awkward conversations, and me coming just out of high school, I don't know how many conversations I've had with girls that I have a crush on, where I just don't really know what to say, and it's hard. I'm just kind of looking at her and staring, and it just felt very real to me, and I love that raw authenticity that he brought to it. And same thing with the writers, and that's just something that made this stick out to me compared to other MCU films. It felt very relatable, which is what Spider-Man is as a character, first and foremost.
Yeah, that's a ridiculous narrative. I mean, you can't go in and say The Breakfast Club or Edge of 17 or these big coming of age movies don't have a style to them. Eighth grade, great example. They don't have a style. They do have a style. You just don't. It's not a big spectacle, so you don't like it, and that's fine. But call it for what it is. Don't attack the man. I mean, there was a clear style in this movie, and it solidified it more so than made it any worse.
And quick point, mentioned the grounded style, and you guys also mentioned the bigger action scenes in this movie. I think he really stepped it up too with that. He went really well from doing the high school drama to immediately going right into a big action set piece. and I think there's one that we all like really loved. So I guess we can start talking about the action right now. So Marcos, give us your favorite action sequence in the movie.
I was surprisingly entertained with the very first one with Hydro Man, and I thought that was actually really good because, as you said, that transition from that a high school trip to the action scene was really cool. But I will say it has to be the very first illusion sequence with Mysterio after it's revealed he's the villain, and it was straight up one from the comics too. If you played some of the Spider-Man games, it's straight up from that too. It was just insane. It was just everything that, and initially I was like, oh, this is pretty cool Mysterio. It's pretty grounded to take. And as soon as this happened, I was like, okay, this is straight up Mysterio that everyone wanted to see. It was just like, it was basically, if I had to say there's a perfect scene in this movie, that's the perfect scene from start to finish.
I'm with you. To add on to that, I'm going to throw in the second Mysterio scene on the bridge. Where mostly like the end part where he gets his spider sense going and he starts taking out the drones. I thought that was
Tingle.
really. It's Peter. I'm not going to call it that. they can make their jokes. I'm not going to call it that.
Come on,
I'm not
Jackson.
gonna call it that.
Tingle.
But like,
Talk about his
where he
tingle.
finally like gets it into drive and he like is staring down these drones and it's in the black. It goes into the black space and he can't see anything and he's using his senses to destroy them.
So good.
I thought it was fantastic.
And then he grabs the gun like right at the last second.
Oh
that was
God,
so cool.
dude,
That
that
was
was
awesome.
like that was
Oh
something
my
right
gosh.
out of like what you see in the video game, like in the Raimi things. What people have been complaining about, like that was Spider-Man, like he using his abilities, like it was awesome. It was just awesome.
Jacob?
I honestly, I'm with Marcos on the first illusion scene. It's people. I'm trying to think how to describe because it's honestly so insane. It's hard to explain the scene itself.
Yeah, I don't even remember
But
a
it's
lot
just-
of it.
It was like
it's
so
just-
much to take in at one moment.
It was constantly throwing
It's comparable
around.
to me with the Doctor Strange like astral projection like sequence.
Oh yeah, for
Exactly. It's like you
I think
can't.
it's
It's hard to
better.
explain
Like,
what's
I
happening.
need to watch that on loop. And you guys, I don't know if you
Yes.
guys saw it in IMAX, but it was just like stunning in IMAX.
Oh my
I
god, I bet it
haven't
would be.
seen
I
it.
gotta see it now, IMAX. But it was the perfect way to do Mysterio on screen, and it fully worked. Like the stuff they were doing in it, you couldn't do in any of the other Spider-Man movies before it. Like I saw someone saying they were the technology that we have with CGI now. They just didn't have this at all back then, so they could have never done something like this for Spider-Man, and it's so amazing. I loved it so much. I also really liked the Molten Man scene when Spider-Man and Mysterio were working together. I'm sorry, Night Monkey and Mysterio working together.
Of course.
Yeah, Night Monkey. But I thought that was really great. I loved the action and Molten Man's powers. I thought it was great. I loved it. Caleb, what about you?
I mean, you guys have all said it, and I'll just add on, about that Mysterio scene is my jaw was like literally like on the floor, and that's when I knew this film knew what it was doing, because like I said, the first half it was just kind of there for me, and then I think after the Mysterio reveal is when it really kicked into gear. But like that scene, I was just like, all right, they know what they're doing. Like this is gonna be a great Spider-Man movie. Like towards it, or like once it's fully completed, and I was not wrong. And I just love the moment when he snaps out of it, and then Nick Fury shoots him, and you think like he's safe, and then immediately it just jumps right back into it, and like Mysterio is right there in front of him. Then he gets hit by the train, and that was, oh my god, so good. Like I literally need to watch that scene on repeat. And then if I had to mention another action scene, the one right before he gets on the bridge, which the bridge scene was great too. But when he's taking down all the drones, when he goes inside of the projection, that one was like just really cool visuals on that. And people have mentioned this all over Twitter. Like they really upgraded their web swinging scenes. There wasn't a ton in Homecoming, and they like towards the end New York swing, and just that one in particular, like just seeing him like agile swinging through it felt like the Spider-Man PS4 game, which is like just classic Spider-Man, and I loved it.
Yeah, I mean, we're on Mysterio, so if you guys want to like deep dive into him, because I mean, he was the major point in this movie. I mean, we have Jake Gyllenhaal's performance, but then when they also have like what they did with the character, which was a diverge from what we see in the comic books, because they gave him a very MCU backstory, which I enjoyed. I think some people had a few issues with it. I really enjoyed it. So I guess we'll start with you again, Caleb. I guess. So what was your take on, I guess, the reveal and how Jake Gyllenhaal did?
Yeah, so I love everything they did with the character. I love his performance, and he's, for whatever reason, Spider-Man villains in the movies just continuously become the best comic book movie villains of all time. I mean, even Vulture and Mysterio, I would say, are two of the best villains in the MCU already, and Spider-Man's had 2 films. No, I don't think any other franchise in the MCU could say that. But I gotta say, like, I love what the reveal was. How it was, he was taken advantage of by Stark, and so were all these other employees, and the guy from Iron Man 1 who was brought back. But the way they revealed it was just like weird to me. It was kind of like this weird montage, and obviously it was a lot of exposition, but we had the audience had to know what was going on, but it was just like, I don't know if I didn't see a lot of other people complain about it, but just the way it was playing clips from other movies, and then he was just talking to all of his colleagues and saying all this stuff. It was a little weird to me and a little jarring, but like I said, after that is I literally have no complaints after that reveal scene. So, Marcos, what were your thoughts on the reveal in general and Mysterio as a whole?
Yeah, I'm gonna piggyback what you said in the beginning about the reveal. I feel the same way as well. Like, I thought it was a lot of exposition. It was really convenient. It was just, for time wise, they spent a lot of time to setting him up, and then boom, 2 minutes. 2 minutes, he's a villain, and it was super, super convenient. But I think the character himself, I think they did a really good job. I think the fact that he kind of tricked everyone into thinking he was this hero is what made it so entertaining, made it fresh. It was very refreshing. This is not what you expected. It's also super different from other movies, and it kind of continues that from Vulture. Vulture is not what you expect in that movie, and here the villain's not what you expect. I do think that it was super interesting that he wasn't even actually flying around. He wasn't actually even doing anything. He was controlling it via motion capture suit. That's actually pretty cool.
Motion capture suit was hilarious.
Yeah, I thought it wasn't gonna work at first. I was kind of thrown off. I don't know how this is gonna work, because sometimes with that it kind of throws off the stakes, but it still worked at the end. So I thought it worked perfectly at the end. But yeah. Oh, and overall his character, I thought after the reveal it kind of got a little comic booky, but I thought that Jake Gyllenhaal really filled the role well, and I think he fit it really well. But yeah, overall I think I like the Vulture just a little bit better, simply because it was Michael Keaton, and I feel like that arc was a little bit more believable simply because there's more emotion behind that. I feel like you can relate to the Vulture. This one, he's just evil, and although you understand him,
let me jump in. I'm going to disagree with you there, Marcos.
Wow.
Because his intention wasn't to be evil. Had this been a Phase 1 movie, which is this is the direction I thought it was going. Had this been a Phase 1 movie, Mysterio would have been and the same the same stakes are put up, and he was a disgruntled Stark employee.
Yeah.
He would have wanted Edith to take over the world or to kill people, but he didn't. They wanted it to control the narrative and become a legitimate, actually become a hero, but not in the normal sense. They just wanted to do it for the glory.
I get that.
Rather than murdering the entire world, which is the generic villain thing that we got 80 times in the first run of the movie.
Oh yeah,
it's something completely different.
Yeah, it's certainly not straightforward. And I think you were gonna say something.
Well,
yeah.
Also, Jackson is they were taking advantage of the aftermath of Endgame. For all we know, 4 of these heroes have died. The major ones. There's not a lot of Avengers around, even though we all know there's a ton of Avengers. If you saw the end of Endgame, there's a ton of superheroes out in the world. But for plot's sake, there's not a ton of heroes to fill that void. So they took advantage of that situation, and I like that a lot.
I'll jump in. I really liked how they that it makes Mysterio as the villain. It really makes sense with this being the end of the Infinity Saga, because it ties back all the way to the first movie, Iron Man. That Tony Stark essentially made Mysterio. He made all of these employees turn against him in some way to lead up to this point where Peter has to face off against them.
Obadiah Stane made that one guy, because
that's his
because he couldn't build it
in a box of scraps.
Because Tony Stark built it in a cave. Box
you
scraps.
make your own demons, okay?
That was disgruntled. He was disgruntled at Obadiah Stane.
Oh my God, Jacob and his
Marcos, don't even try and come here and steal my theory, okay? I've had this one since day one. Every movie in Phase 3 goes with what Tony Stark said in Iron Man 3. We create our own demons, okay? look back, you'll figure it out. It's out there. Okay.
Who created
I just
Thanos?
need to put that out there. Who created Thanos?
Yeah.
The Avengers. By stopping him,
No,
they
Iron
ended up
Iron Man basically created all the villains.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. This does continue the
Get out of here, Jack.
this does continue the trope
Get
that
outta here.
Tony Stark basically created like the baddest villains in the MCU. I mean, even more than his own.
Okay, calm down.
No, even more
Calm
than
down.
his own movies
Calm down.
or his.
I can't
Even
wait for
dead,
Doc
he's
Ock-
still the
I can't
villain.
wait for Doc Ock to be a disgruntled Stark employee. I can't wait for Black Cat to be an ex-girlfriend of his that gets really mad.
I can't wait for Electro to be like a janitor.
his
A
Yeah.
janitor that gets dropped into a vat of
It's his
electric
birthday.
eels.
Yeah.
Today's my birthday.
No, okay,
Oh my
but
God,
any
that's
more
not
thoughts on Mysterio? I guess before we move on.
I thought Jake Gyllenhaal's performance
Yeah,
was
I don't.
awesome. in
Yeah,
this
Marcus,
movie.
I'm going to disagree with you again. I don't think he was comic booky. I thought when he got to turn it on and become the bad guy, he was
Yeah.
much better.
Yeah,
least in
maybe
terms-
comic
he was
book
much
wasn't
more
the right
interesting.
word.
Yeah.
It was just more.
I want to comment
yeah.
on that also.
Okay.
Because like you were saying, when he was like pretending to be the hero Mysterio, it did feel comic booky, and I like that because he was playing a role of what he thought a superhero is. So I liked that. So when he became his actual self, the villain, that was who he was actually. And I thought that was like a great. It was. I
he was
liked that
kind
a
of
lot.
like
I
a
thought it was
generic
awesome.
hero, but that's what he was going for. You know, he was saying all the
Yeah.
right things. Like, you know, Tony Stark never said
Yeah.
the right thing. He always said something in
He
his
had to
own,
do it
his
right,
own way.
yeah.
But Mysterio comes in, and,
Yeah.
and that's why Peter took to him so much, was the fact that he always said what he wanted to hear, like the nicest thing,
Yeah.
the most humane thing, and it was like, oh, I like this guy. He says nice things to me.
Mm-hmm.
And then the turn, which classic Spider-Man, always being naive to the bad guy.
Yeah.
The man had his own scriptwriter on set while they're in battle.
Yeah, that's the best part. They made up all the different Earth and
That
the
was a great
multiverse
moment.
thing.
It was a great moment. He was feeding him
That was
lines.
funny. Where he's just like, they're drawing power from Earth's core. That's some bullshit.
Something I really liked, but also kind of might be part of why I don't know about you guys, but I think the disconnect I had with the first half of the movie, I think was because there wasn't really a clear threat involved. And that's because, I mean, we obviously know that Mysterio is not the villain. Or, no, Mysterio is not the good guy. So, like, him saying the Earth is going to get destroyed and, these elementals and all that, like, because I don't know about you guys, like, I knew Peter wasn't actually fighting, like, any real threat in those scenes.
Yeah, right. We knew.
Yeah,
but,
so for me, I think that's kind of where the disconnect was with me, because I knew, I was like, all right, I mean, he's really just jumping around at this point and, like, not really doing anything that'll contribute much, I guess. But, again, I think in the context, it really works, and with the reveal, and then for that second half, that build-up is what makes it so good.
Yeah, I'm with you. Like, I think the reveal was the biggest part to me. Like, they had to sell me on this guy not being, this guy being the guy who we know who he is, but like they need to sell us in the movie on it, because people who don't read comic books won't realize this. So you need to sell the audience on this guy being the bad guy. Mm-hmm. And I think that worked really well. I mean, I had a problem with the exposition scene too. For a second, in the beginning, I was like, "Oh wow, they're tying this all around." Then the other 5 people were like, "Oh, you're a random person.
Yeah.
You're a random person. You're a random person."
Yeah.
Okay,
I thought they were
I
going
get
to
it.
have a movie clip for each person where they kind of Photoshop them in like they did with him.
I thought that would have been funnier. I mean, it would have been too much though. But then they just
Yeah.
kind of stopped that and were just kind of like this, that, and that.
Yeah,
And,
the box of scraps guy was kind of shoehorned in, if I'm not gonna lie. But I guess
It was,
goes
but
full
I
circle.
mean,
Don't-
we
no,
we
take
always,
that back.
We
That
always
scene was
joke about that
amazing.
moment here. So like,
I know. I love seeing that.
I
line
loved it.
again.
Other people probably didn't, give 2 shits about it, but I for us it was like an inside thing.
I'm
I was
not
like, oh my God, they
gonna
said
I'm not
it.
gonna deny I love seeing Obadiah Stane say that line again.
Like out of nowhere, I was like, oh my God, it's that guy.
it's the guy. It's the guy.
It's that guy.
the guy.
Something he like his that build up his backstory kind of reminded me of was Aldrich Killian from Iron Man 3, and I do actually think his I connected more with his backstory than Mysterio because we saw the beginning, but him as a villain as a whole was not nearly as good as Mysterio. But I think if we had a scene like that where we saw, because at the beginning of Iron Man 3 we see Aldrich Killian get rejected by Tony and all that,
Yeah.
and then see.
When he created his
Yeah.
own demon. Is that what you're saying?
I think
but
if
to
there was a
compare
scene
the-
like
yeah.
that, maybe that would have been a better way of showing it instead of just like one kind of side clip of him in the background at the barf intervention thing.
And as good as a scene as Killian's was in the beginning, because that's a great moment. I think the two motivations are kind of unfair because Killian, he just got stood up for a meeting, whereas
Yeah, that was
Mysterio spent like his entire life building this thing, and then Tony Stark kind of threw it away as a joke, and then named it Barf because he's a dick like that.
And that's why I think seeing a scene like of the build-up would have made it more impactful.
Yeah, I think the issue with that is that the fact that they probably couldn't get Downey back to do it. I would have loved if we'd seen. Well, I guess we already saw the moment after he walks off stage, but maybe before he goes on stage at the MIT thing, that he talks to Gyllenhaal and is like, "Hey, LOL, I don't give a crap about your thing," blah 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 blah, and just goes on and does it, and then pisses him off. I think that would have worked well, but they probably couldn't get him back. I doubt he wanted to even do a cameo.
If they did, Gyllenhaal gives him like an actual like name for it all. He's like, gotcha, walks out there, barf.
If they had actually like filmed Gyllenhaal in that scene from if he was in Civil War in the background and no one noticed it, and they actually like planned it that far ahead, like I would have given like mad props to Feige. And, like,
well, my question is, do you think? Because Civil War was on TV 2 nights ago, and I watched it. And in that moment, I was watching the barf scene, and it was just so random. And I was like, they haven't done anything with that, because I thought they were going to use it for some kind of time travel thing in Endgame.
Yeah.
And I was like, they didn't do anything with it. So I was like, I wonder where that's going to go. Like, where did that even come from? And literally 2 days later, I'm sitting in the movies, and it's like, oh my god, I literally just thought about this. Do you think they set that up intentionally, or they just happen to have that in their back pocket and use it in this movie? Because it wasn't that long ago, to be fair.
I think it's back pocket. Well, because
they
hadn't even made Homecoming yet. So when they wrote that script, they didn't even know Spider-Man was going to be in the movies.
Well, I mean,
because when they were writing the script, they didn't have the deal finalized yet.
Well, there were multiple scripts though. There were 2 scripts.
But they wrote it with him in mind at first.
I mean,
I believe, if I'm not
They
mistaken.
had one version with him and then one version without him.
I think that was more just for Tony's backstory with his parents more than anything.
Well, like I get that, but also like they, Kevin Feige's he's a mad person, and like he never does anything on accident.
I think that's just one of those things where like they're just gonna take credit that it was set up. Like the kid from Iron Man 2, that was actually Peter Parker, and they'll be like, "Yep, we planned it all along."
Well, they're gonna make me give them credit for setting it up.
Yeah,
because
and then
2 days ago, I was like, "What are they even gonna do with this?" They just completely dropped this thread, and then literally 2 days later, literally comes back and like punches me in the face for even doubting them.
Feige's next interview, he's gonna we had Jake on the phone when we were filming that scene, just to really let him know what was going on. We said, "Hey man, keep your schedule clear. Next 2-3 years, we're gonna need you for barf. Okay, so just keep your schedule clear." They had this planned out all the way, the entire time.
All right, we can move on from Mysterio, but I just want to say one last thing. My favorite part about Jake Gyllenhaal playing the role is on the press junket. You can just tell he has no idea about any of the Marvel movies or comic book stuff.
He hasn't watched.
There was one clip. It was like,
amazing.
what's your favorite MCU movie? And Tom Holland's like thinking, and then you can tell Jake Gyllenhaal's doing like just a very fake thing. He's like, "Oh yeah, like let me think."
He's trying to come up with one title.
Yeah, and Tom Holland's like, "Thor Ragnarok." He goes, "Oh yeah, that I was just about to say that." It's just very.
And you took the words right out of my mouth, Tom.
Yeah.
There was another one of him in like a comic shop, and someone's like, "This is Spider-Man issue 616," and then he's just like, "Oh wow, that's really cool, yeah." And it's been hilarious because he's like obviously a big indie guy, and this is like one of his biggest roles, biggest movies. So I think that's been hilarious.
I mean, he was nearly Spider-Man at one point. So
he was almost Spider-Man. He was almost Spider-Man in Spider-Man 2. What would you have felt about that, Caleb? Your favorite Spider-Man could have been Mysterio.
Looking even older than Tobey Maguire. I don't know. We'll see. Although he was
pretty
younger.
young back then.
He was
a spry guy.
Yeah.
He could actually cry.
No, he's too cool looking. That's the Andrew Garfield effect. He's too cool looking.
I don't think the train sequence would be as iconic with Gyllenhaal though.
Yeah.
He's no older than my son. He's just a kid.
He's just a boy.
All right, we can move on from Gyllenhaal.
Yeah, what I want to get onto is like how much I really dug the love story in this movie.
That's what I was
worried
about
it. I was worried about the MJ story, not because I enjoyed her in the first movie a lot. I mean, they gave her so much to do in this one, and I really enjoyed what Zendaya opened up with the character. But like just the awkwardness of them all being together and teenage love. I love the Ned and Betty moments where they get together and then immediately break up. I thought it was hilarious. I thought it was a really funny thing. And their text, the miss you more, and Peter's reaction to it. I thought they nailed that. I thought John Watts did a really good job nailing all that and keeping me interested in the high school aspect of the movie.
Our boy Ned has mad game. We need to.
He
we need
took-
to
he
acknowledge
took 8
that,
hours
boys.
to
He's
get
just
his
got
play a
girlfriend.
computer game.
mad
She-
game.
By the end of it, he'd hooked her.
He played Beast Wars for 8 hours and just got a girlfriend. We need to talk about that bad game,
Listen,
okay? He needs his own movie
The
just for
reason I
that.
love that so much is because they're like I said before, I just got out of high school. They're like I literally know couples
Yeah.
in my
Oh,
friend
yeah.
group that are the like literally like barely have met each other, already dating and texting each other right next to each other and being all lovey-dovey, and then break
you
up
dated
like a
in
couple
high
weeks
school,
later.
Which I did. Like it was exactly like that. Like I lived that life. At one point in time, I was living that kind of life, and I was like, Jesus, dude, like what? Like that was like that's gross. Like it's just, but it was so accurate. Like it was like that's how people act.
And yeah, and I love I mean, I wasn't the biggest fan of MJ in the first movie, and I think her reveal at the end of being like, "Oh, I'm MJ." Like I was like, just call her MJ. Like it doesn't matter. I don't think you have to make it a big like reveal, like twist or whatever. But I like how she's not super big like Mary Jane from the comics. She's just like her own character in this, and not like any other, superhero love interest. Like she's kind of like, shy and quirky, and I like that a lot. And like I kind of mentioned earlier, like Jackson just said, like it was, spot on like high school dialogue, and that's what John Watts nails is just the high school. Like I don't know how he does it so well, but it's like that's literally like those conversations between Peter and MJ, and they're just very awkward, and no one really knows what to say, and they're just kind of bouncing around in the love triangle with Brad. Brad's the worst. Nobody likes Brad. But
Yeah,
Screw
Brad-
Brad.
that was just all
Brad
like
sucks.
great, and I loved it. And honestly, like, save for maybe Gwen Stacy from the Amazing Spider-Man movies, I think they had the best chemistry out of any of the other, Spider-Man duos.
Strong shade at McGuire and Dunst.
Yeah, I
strong,
mean-
strong shade.
That's easily.
If you had to compare like Tobey Maguire, Dunst, Walmart, Andrew Garfield, Emma Stone,
Chanel.
Who would do
Chanel,
that?
I just
Why would
I
you
think
do
we
that,
can.
though?
I think we could
Why
put
would you do that though?
we can-
That's wild.
Marcos,
I'm gonna
McGuire,
agree
McGuire
with-
Dunst is like a wet towel and like a I don't know, like a
It's a wet
Yeah,
towel.
wet towel.
What is
like a wet
that?
rag. It's like nothing there.
I've never
You've
heard that
Shut up.
metaphor ever. It's like a wet towel. Wait,
Okay, I'm
a damp
not talking about
rag.
vehicular transport. Okay, like, Jesus.
Hey, I'm not
if
even
you had to
talking.
compare the two, I would say that Maguire
Alright, that's
and
enough, Jacob.
Dunst
I don't
are
want-
like
I don't want you to
a-
finish
a
this
bus.
Okay.
More like a
okay.
bus,
Move on.
and then,
Moving on.
All right. Well,
Garfield and Stone is like a canoe, very
What-
just
what-
very dim.
one more thing I will say is I do like how, like, last movie obviously had love interest Liz Allen. Is that right? Yeah.
Liz
and
Allen.
and
Yeah, Michelle's so much better,
and it's just
better,
like
right?
this movie
guys.
he's immediately on to MJ, and there's not really any build up at the beginning of the movie. He's just like, oh yeah, I have a crush on MJ, and people were like, oh my god, like he's bouncing around. It's like I think at this point a junior in high school. Like literally, like if you've been in high school, you have a different crush every other month. And I
Also,
thought,
Liz was the popular girl that he wasn't.
Yeah, like the
supposed to
scene- like
get.
she was a senior.
It wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't like that was his true love.
yeah,
It
like
was a girl that.
you see a hot girl and you're like, wow, like I have a crush on her, and like that's really
And maybe
all
she
it is.
maybe she'll go to the dance with you. It's all nice, but like she's not gonna end up with you. Like you know that.
Yeah, and I like that a lot. And like MJ was like, that's like for at least like it seemed to him like that's like a more like real love, and
Yeah, that was
gonna pursue
Endgame.
this, and yeah, so that was great.
I think we can agree though that Ned probably could have gotten Liz.
If he really, really,
If he
he
tried
could've
harder, if
Oh,
he,
no,
if he
Bet-
played
yeah,
more
if
Beast
he just,
Wars.
like-
Betty is like,
Yeah, if
Betty
he
is
rocked
kinda
up,
like-
played Beast Wars.
I think Betty is a very specific type of girl that I know from high school who would only fall for a beast like Ned.
Beat like
okay.
Ned.
Wow.
And
All
by
right,
beast,
uh,
beast
oh, by
no,
Betty
by
reminds
beast
me
I
of
mean
the-
like he's a beast, like he's a cool guy.
Oh,
Betty
oh,
reminds me
oh,
of
no,
wow.
no shade, no
Understood.
shade at Ned. Ned's hilarious. All
Understood.
right, well,
Okay.
since we're talking
Yeah,
about that, like, what did you think of the comedy in this movie? Because I thought it was top notch, as some would
I thought
say.
there were some hilarious moments. I thought this movie was,
I thought it was funny.
really good. I think the humor worked a lot better than Homecoming. I thought it was really spot on.
Man, I thought Homecoming was hilarious too. But I will say, Far From Home probably has some of the funnier moments, especially with Martin Starr. I thought he was
my
His
God.
joke
funnier
about
in
his
this
wife
one.
was one of the funniest
Oh my
MCU
God.
jokes in a long time.
The camera falling in the water.
Oh
Yeah,
my
that
God.
scene just went on, and you just didn't know. Oh no, he's not gonna drop it, and he actually does. Those ha-
Oh,
I
did
thought
you see?
Jamie's move like complimented him well, like back and forth, like the way they
Oh
were
my
bouncing
God,
off
yeah.
each other. I thought it was really funny.
I love like his little comments. Like when he was talking to Brad, he's like, "I'm the cool teacher, so like,
You gotta stop taking pictures of people in the bathroom.
don't take pictures of people in the bathroom. That's weird, dude. Don't do that."
Did you see in
Talking
the
about witches the
in the
entire movie.
mid credits, like the like the graphics and stuff? There was like the photos of Mr. Harrison, I think, like dropping his camera in the water. You could see like the perspective of
Yeah,
the
yeah,
camera.
yeah.
It was hilarious. Also, I love how
That's great.
like they kind of don't recognize just how freaking crazy everything is. Like their schedule is getting moved around, and then when Brad like brings up how like crazy, like what the heck is going on?
It's like, what's happening?
And then Mr. What's his face, Mr. Harrington, he's just like, yo, I mean, they just upgraded us, and they got this bus for us, and it's some of the best parts in the movie because they're just, and everywhere they go, there just happens to be a big monster, and they're just like, yo, that's what happens.
All right, so I guess like the one other aspect we can touch on is like the how like it moved around the bigger MCU, which it was a lot of stuff. But let's start with some like the Happy Hogan stuff and the one moment I do want to touch on, which might be my favorite scene in the movie, was after Peter ends up in the Netherlands. When Happy comes to pick him up, the moment on the plane I thought was actually like really well done and really well acted. And then the moment with when Happy puts on the Back in Black and just stares at Peter as he builds the suit. I just like things like that. Just is why you love the MCU and like why you love the connectivity of these things, because you don't get emotion like that anywhere else. Like you can't find it anywhere else.
Have you ever seen A24 film? There's a lot of emotion.
No, I mean
Yeah,
like,
man,
with
wow.
comic characters, okay? Like, oh come on, blah 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 blah. Blah blah
Have you
blah.
seen
I get what you're
Timothée
saying,
Chalamet?
I watched
In
Booksmart,
every
blah blah
A24
blah.
movie.
Come on.
Oh, wow.
Go on, Marcos.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna agree with you there. I will say this overall way. I don't think we've mentioned it yet. I think the best part of the movie is Peter Parker's arc, which I think worked better than Homecoming. Homecoming's kind of like
You're jumping
blurred.
off completely.
Yeah, it's kind of blurred where what his arc is, what he learns. This one, his arc from beginning to end is him becoming his own hero, and the entire third act is him creating his own suit, and that talk with Hogan as well. Hogan? Happy, jeez.
Happy Hogan.
I was about to call him
It's
Happy
Happy
Hogan.
Hogan.
Wow.
Yeah.
The hell
Yeah.
you a high school buddy? What the hell you call him Hogan for?
Wow.
Yeah, me and Hogan, we were.
What's up, Hogan?
Anyways, yeah,
Me and the Haps, we're just chilling.
but yeah, the entire third act where he's just becoming his own hero. He loses his web. He's still able to use his smarts and able to get Mysterio. It's once again, I thought it was better than any other MCU film so far that has had Spider-Man, where this is the most Spider-Man has been. I just felt like this is like it's also the perfect time where there's no Avengers, no other real heroes. I feel like now, I think, as you said, like before we started recording, Caleb, where now he kind of does have the weight of the world on his shoulders, and he is kind of has to replace Iron Man, but in his own way, and he doesn't have to be Iron Man. I thought that was like the biggest takeaway of the movie.
Right. I mean, Happy goes out and says like, "You'll never be Iron Man because Iron Man can't even be Iron Man. Like he can't live up to what the name is. So nobody will ever be Iron Man. Like they're basically talking to the audience, saying, "Hey, Spider-Man's here now. No one will ever be Iron Man. Just love Spider-Man and move on." Which is, a lot of fans are complaining about with that line in the trailer, which wasn't done very well the way they put it in the trailer. The world needs the next Spider-Man, next Iron Man.
Yeah, but stop complaining about the stuff from the trailer, like acting like you've seen the whole
no,
movie.
right, but that's the whole point is that it wasn't cut well in the trailer, but it's a trailer. Watch the movie and then decide.
There were
which
whole
is
scenes
exactly
in the trailer that weren't even the movie, actually. Like
there was two sequences. The fight in the
mafia scene, yeah.
and him getting all the stuff, which I think Tom Holland says is going to be a digital short, is him going to the store and getting all the stuff.
Peter's to-do list. That'll be on the Blu-ray.
Also, him selling his Star Wars figures to get the money, which I thought was cool.
Rip.
And then I think Kevin Feige said that the only one that he didn't sell was Lobot because Kevin Feige likes Lobot, or for whatever reason, and that's fine. Don't flip a nerd.
Wow, what a nerd, huh?
Don't you talk about Kevin like that, okay?
Little nerd.
Don't you talk about Kevin like that. Here, hold on. I want to talk about Happy. I really loved his relationship with Peter in this movie. I kind of liked how he was in Homecoming, where he was just annoyed by Peter's presence the entire movie up until the end. But it felt like he wasn't I like how they didn't make him like a father figure for Peter in the movie. They just made him a friend, because Tony Stark was Happy's best friend, and now he's gone. And I feel like Peter's, in a way, he's in that kind of place for him. He's his new friend, and I loved that relationship between the two. And like Jackson said, when they started playing Back in Black, I don't think I've ever had that combination of happy and depressed in a movie, just by them playing AC/DC. I'm sorry, Led Zeppelin. It made me so happy because it really brought everything together
Brought full
from the
circle.
first Iron Man to now. They brought it full circle.
Fullcirclecinema.com.
Always plug. We actually got them to put that in so we could make that joke.
Anytime you see that
Kevin
reference,
Fur.
it's an ad for us.
Just like we do literally every review we do.
If anything in the movie ever comes full circle,
Every time we review
That's us.
anything, it's going to come full circle.
There's a little trademark symbol in the
it
corner.
always comes full circle.
All right. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, I'm just gonna touch on what Marcos was talking about, and I know. So earlier in the chat, Jackson, you just said like, I think it was something along the lines of you were just saying like the last like third act of the movie, which just felt like so like pure like Spider-Man, and like I couldn't agree more.
I think I said quintessential.
Yeah, quintessential like Spider-Man, and like this is the most Spider-Man I think I've ever seen Spider-Man, like including Spider-Man 2, like as much as I love that movie. He learns like maybe people have all these complaints like, oh, he doesn't have a responsibility and all that and whatnot, and like, you know, obviously he literally says to Mysterio like, I just want to go on this trip with my friends, and he doesn't want to be dealing with all this otherworldly stuff. And something that I really loved and Marcos mentioned was like what makes the Raimi films great is Spider-Man is the only hero in the universe, so the weight of the world is on his shoulders, and no one, like if he doesn't stop the bad guys, no one's gonna be there to stop them. Whereas one of my only problems with Homecoming is that, and just Spider-Man in general in the MCU, is like he's not the only hero, obviously. So him not doing what he's doing, there's probably going to be the next person in line to stop him. And this felt like the first time where the way the world was on his shoulders, where if he wasn't there to stop them, like no one was going to stop Mysterio, and he was going to, you know, fulfill his evil plan and whatnot. And I just really loved that. And they said like no other heroes were available, and I kind of find that hard to believe. I mean, like there's literally like, I'm sure you could like find so many other heroes, and if you ask Doctor Strange, hey, there's another guy from another planet with these elementals trying to take over the world, I think he would probably be more than happy to help. But
the big problem is I think it came out that they had cut a cameo from Falcon or Sam Wilson, Captain America in the movie. If he was going to be in the movie, where the hell was he? Where's Bucky?
Yeah.
I guess Thor and Captain Marvel aren't available, but like there's a laundry list.
My theory is that they're gonna make this kind of like, you remember how like all of the Phase 2, it's like all of this stuff was happening like around the same time. They were all busy with their own stuff. Like, why didn't Captain America show up in Iron Man 3? Because he was literally dealing with like the fall of like Shield. Like I feel like the next few movies, when they announce Phase 4, everything in those movies will explain why they couldn't be helping out like Peter. Like maybe Doctor Strange was dealing with stopping stuff in
Mordo.
different dimensions. Like he's dealing with Mordo, he's dealing with Nightmare.
Another
and all that.
thing it may be is that we'll get to the post-credit scenes, but there was something's going on with Fury. Obviously, we'll talk about it. You know, the thing, but what's going on with him may lead to this where he doesn't have the Rolodex that he once had, so he doesn't have a readily available way to contact somebody.
Yeah,
and that's why he would. And
that's why he would for 5 years. He doesn't.
That's why he would find the one guy he knows where he can find him. Like this kid who's sitting at home, he can find him. He may not be able to find everybody else, but he can find that guy.
Unless he gets ghosted, you know.
And he would fall for someone like Mysterio, whereas the real Nick Fury could spot that from a mile away.
Yeah.
Which,
I mean, just give it away. Talos from Captain Marvel is.
Oh no! Come on, man.
And also,
I
think
Nick Fury the whole time.
Jesus.
We met Talos, and
Jackson.
Talos is kind of naive. He's kind of I'm just a guy.
This is a Talos appreciation.
No, I loved
do not
Talos,
talk
but he
about
wasn't
him like
the
that.
sharpest tool. He wasn't like he's not Nick Fury level like I'm on this kind of thing. So
Yeah, like he literally got tricked by like an illusion. Like he's a shapeshifter himself. Like
yeah, well, I mean, they make that joke, and I thought that was a really good joke too at the end.
He's like,
so
that was great. That was so good.
I guess I think we've talked pretty much about the whole movie, so we can jump into the post credits, which are kind of a big deal. We'll start with the Talos reveal, because I think we're already talking about it, and
yeah.
One thing I'll say is like there was a little bit of a rapport with Like there's a little bit more like chemistry between Hill and Fury, and like I think that's cool because like they're husband and wife, like the Skrulls. And it brings into question like how long, like how many times have we seen Fury in the MCU, and it's actually been Talos, because they've known each other since the 90s, and obviously
it's
they're
been
setting something up
20-something
now,
years.
but someone made the joke
like every
how,
summer, he's on vacation.
someone made the joke how Fury cut his bread like diagonally in Age of Ultron, so it must be Talos. So like you got it.
I hate that joke so much. I hate that so much.
What I would find funny is if Kevin Feige comes out just to screw with the TV people more and say it was Talos who showed up in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and not the real Nick
my
Fury,
God.
just to undercut them a little bit more.
Because they couldn't get Samuel L. Jackson's contract.
No, so they took Ben Mendelsohn and dressed him up like Samuel L. Jackson and had him.
We did the most intensive makeup of any MC movie
You guys
ever.
really didn't get Sam Jackson. You just thought you did.
We sent Ben to you. This was all a gag.
Retroactively, I'm telling you, Sam Jackson wasn't on the show.
That's the equivalent of Jake Gyllenhaal got a call during the
Civil
filming of
War.
Civil War.
So Jacob, as a big comics fan, and you know a lot about Sword in the comics, can you tell us kind of? So they kind of set up Sword, which is, you can explain it, and just tell us what the ramifications will be for Phase 4 in the MCU.
Okay, so essentially think of it like this. S.H.I.E.L.D. was meant to be a protection for Earth, like all these attacks on it. But what happens when all of these new attacks are coming from space? They need something to protect themselves in a new way. And so that's kind of how Sword is going to come in to play, if I'm thinking of it right. Because think of it this way. Fury's been gone for 5 years. S.H.I.E.L.D's nothing anymore. The show's canceled. There's nothing they can do with it
It's
anymore.
still running. Don't disrespect it.
Okay,
Even though
dude.
it's not very
This show's
good.
got what, like a day left? How many episodes are left in the season?
I don't
And then
know.
it's
Clock
over.
is ticking.
Okay. Is Clark Gregg even on it anymore?
Yeah, he's
is he
on it.
like
He's
dead?
in-
No,
He's a
he's from,
villain.
like, wait, isn't he from an alternate reality?
Yeah, but the
You
real
don't
one,
even know.
the real Coulson died. If you
Again?
want to watch, yeah,
Again?
and the current
Yeah,
one in the
yeah,
show
he's
is
dead,
like
dead.
is like an alternate version.
But like,
Spoilers for Agents
Okay.
of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah,
forget it. I'm not
you're-
gonna start talking about Agents of Shield right now.
Sounds like they jumped the shark on that one. But no, okay. So think of it that way. If your organization's gone, you kind of have to start over in a way. So I feel like that's how Sword's going to come into play here.
In less nerdy terms, it's Space Shield. It's literally
It's Space
Thank you,
Shield.
Jackson.
Space
Yeah,
Shield.
I'm gonna read. Here's the acronym
It's
for
Space
it.
Shield.
Sentient World Observation and Response Department.
Space
They
Shield.
monitor space to figure out what threats could be posed to Earth and retaliate in their own way to stop it. This is Fury's way of making sure Thanos never happens again.
Do you know what's incredible though? The fact that
What?
Jon Favreau and Sam Jackson are still as prominent as they were like,
In the very
in
first
Phase 1, and they're just cashing
It's
checks
amazing.
from all of these cameos
Left
they
and
will
right.
not stop
Dude.
doing.
Bro, and
they
they
just
they
set
have
up
a bigger
Sam
role
Jackson.
now.
They just set up Sam Jackson for another big phase. Like,
Oh my God,
I
yeah.
thought he was gonna, maybe come in here and there. They just gave him like one of the biggest things they could give him, and it's like, dude, like when are these dudes gonna decide not to do this anymore? Because like they're probably making bank doing these things.
And and Jon Favreau is just always on the Disney lots, with The Mandalorian and The Lion
God,
King and whatever
he's
else
just
he's
chilling
doing.
there,
So
bro.
I'm sure they're just like, hey, can you
He
just,
actually
He's probably
has his
eating
own
dinner
house.
with Bob
right?
Iger
Yeah,
every night. Like,
want to
lots
just
of
stop
my
by
God.
and
He literally- he
record
lives
a
in the
couple of
Cinderella
clips for
castle.
us? Oh, wait, Jackson.
John, do you want to be in this one scene for the? I've never met the character. No, do you just want to show up? Just show up.
Jackson, is it just
Like,
me,
you-
or was Gwyneth Paltrow reported to be in the movie, like way beforehand?
She was on set.
Yeah, there's pictures of her. I
Yeah,
remember.
there's probably
We
a
have
scene.
there were set photos.
And they
I wrote that
mentioned her.
article.
They mentioned her.
It seems as if she was cut, and that's disappointing.
She
but
probably
She wouldn't even-
you
she
ask
she wouldn't
her.
have remembered being in it.
Another Spider-Man
She
movie
wouldn't
she
have
doesn't
remembered
remember
being in it anyway, so it doesn't even matter.
All right,
After that thing came out, they cut her scene. They're like, okay, Gwyneth, we don't want you to see
Avengers 23.
Yeah, those memes on Twitter were actually hilarious.
All right,
Because yeah, and then I guess the other one, we can just get to the other one.
yeah. Also,
Okay, yeah.
this is
this was the
huge.
big one.
Like, I did not think they were gonna go there, especially in an
No.
end. Like, usually end credit scenes are just kind of like a little setup for the next one, but this was
like
huge.
Yeah, this is the biggest they've ever done.
there's
This
like
is,
two
in terms of
things.
setup. Oh my god.
well,
This is honestly
First thing-
Thanos level and Fury level.
first thing I'll say, which is like probably the bigger thing that I care about, is freaking J.K. Simmons returning in the best role of all time as J. Jonah Jameson. I hope he returns for the next one, and kind of that Alex Jones reporter, conspiracy theorist kind of role. That was just freaking amazing. But the real big reveal was that Quentin Beck made this, fabricated this video, made it, or it was more whoever the guy, the box of scraps guy who got the flash drive, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
Box of scraps
But he that's all I'll refer to him forever. He
Scrappy over there.
Yeah, he fabricated a video and making Spider-Man look like the bad guy, and revealing to the world that Peter Parker is Spider-Man, and this is something that's happened in the comics before, but I'm assuming that's going to be probably the main storyline of Spider-Man 3 is him dealing with probably every cop in the city going after him per usual.
And I feel like
that's going to be something crazy.
I feel like, I mean, this is just speculation on my part, that this confirms that another Spider-Man is going to come before the end of Phase 4. Because of how major this is and how it ties into the bigger universe. Obviously, it's his story to this, smaller part. But New York has always been such a big impact, like a big place in the MCU, and I know it'll continue to be. So like having that lingering over the universe for like a long period of time, I don't think it's going to fly. So I feel like we're going to get another one in by 2022 at least.
I'd say
Doesn't, like,
2021.
Sony
I think it's every 2 years.
I would hope.
Sony
I'm
want a
hoping
Spider-Man
21.
movie every 2 years.
I think it is. I mean,
Like, wasn't that a thing they talked with Marvel?
Amazing Spider-Man was.
That's
I
the
don't
only
know if
reason
that's
this happened.
the legitimate, like if that's because I mean it's just 6 appearances. I don't know. I mean, it would make sense for that to happen, but like I mean we're gonna get one here soon. Like
Also, knowing
soon.
Sony, they're gonna rush that movie out as soon as they can.
Oh,
I
100%.
predict 2021. They're gonna start filming next summer.
Hopefully, because I mean I'm very interested in where they're going with this. I mean, listen, like they opened up an entire world of, the bad guys know who Spider-Man is now, and he's gonna have to fight off, the people who think he's a criminal and whatever adversary is gonna be coming after him. Which I
And
hope
now he has to
is Norman Osborn. Fingers crossed.
What is good though too is I mean, there's not really an Avengers movie or a big team up movie in between now and probably like even by the end of Phase 4. So it's not like they're gonna have to like address something like that, whereas they have in other movies. Or I was like, between actually, what I just thought about? This movie takes place in 2023.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I didn't even
true.
think
That's
about
true.
that. Yeah. Oh well.
That's so weird.
Yeah. Well, I was just gonna mention like between this one and the last one, it's been like there's been 2 big team up movies, and I guess 7 years since then. Actually, no, I think 7 years.
It's
But,
6 years. 6 years because it was 2018, 2023.
Yeah, but Spider-Man: Homecoming was 2 years before Infinity War because it was right after Civil War. Remember?
Why do they do this? They make my head hurt. And now they made my head hurt more.
I'm just glad there
by
wasn't another
saving
8
5
years. I thought they were gonna fuck
I
with.
just gotta get a whiteboard and have all the dates written down on it.
I thought they were gonna
somewhere.
fuck with us
Just
and
so I
have
can always
another
reference
like
it.
be like. I thought it was gonna like show the snap and then be like 8 years later and just fuck with us.
Oh my god.
I honestly would have loved it. Just like see people get pissed off for no reason again.
We're gonna have someone from Reddit in our comments be like, actually, it wasn't technically 2033.
I really hope that
gonna be
JK
fair
comes
comment.
back, at least in some kind of
he's got
minor
to.
role.
He's got
Is
to.
like
Yeah.
throughout the movie, he's playing as the internet troll who's going after.
Just making
Spider-Man.
Alex Jones references.
I mean, it's hilarious, and I
there's
love that,
vibranium
I
in
love
the
that
water.
direction. I just want them to do something with it. I'll be bummed if it was just. I mean, I love the cameo, but I'll be bummed if that's just it.
Yeah, the next movie has to
Obviously-
open on him. Just him reporting news.
Oh, that'd
and
be great,
catching up
actually.
everyone.
No, it needs to open on the morning announcements again because that was one of the funniest things. Just,
All right, Jackson. Do you have the Spider-Man: Homecoming Blu-ray or 4K?
Yeah, somewhere around. I mean, not on me. Just somewhere in my
Go
house.
to the behind the scene or the special features. There is like it's like a 5-minute clip of just the morning announcements like during the
How have
events
I
of
never
Spider-Man:
seen that?
Homecoming. It is
How
the
have I
fun.
never seen
It's
that?
even funnier than this, I swear. Like, and when I saw that, that's what it reminded me of. It is so funny. Like, you have to watch it. And it's hilarious because like I'm sure like you guys being like in high school like had like the shitty
Oh yeah,
morning
we had
announcement
those
shows.
horrible,
and it is so
we had like
accurate.
a horrible intro song.
It's
it was
awesome.
the worst thing.
Yeah, you gotta. I recommend everybody if you haven't seen it already, go and watch that.
But I just Betty's co-host. I forget his name slipping my mind. But just when he says like when I got blipped, my brother was younger than me. Now he's my older brother, and then just the way he looks off camera, like
He's like, I
so
don't know.
confused. He's so
It's like, what
confused.
was that about?
He's so confused.
Like I'm
about
playing
it.
up midterms, so like we have to take midterms again. I don't know what that's about. Oh my god,
He already took him.
we finished. It's like doesn't even care. Like they were gone for 5 years. It's just like I gotta take my test again.
I just love how they show the
I don't know
video of the
what's
people
going
blipping back into existence while
Yeah,
they're doing
that
another.
was
It's another
so
pep
funny.
rally 5 years later, and like these
You
kids
guys
just
seen
come
that
in the
one?
middle. And that,
And the one kid getting
that's the
knocked
first
over.
time
Oh
we've
my
seen. They
God.
didn't show us people coming back into existence in
Yeah.
Endgame. We didn't see anybody come back. So like that's our first look at it.
Just popping up exactly where they were.
I remember when May was talking about it. She's like, I when I blipped back into my house, the family living there, the mother thought I was a mistress, and the grandmother thought I was some kind of witch. I was so confused. I was like, oh my god.
Lord, yeah, May was good in this movie too. They gave her a little, like, she got a foundation going. They gave her, she's not old and decrepit, not doing anything.
Although I will say,
She was quite happy.
I mean, they didn't do as much with her knowing Peter is Spider-Man as I kind of hoped they would. Because like the end of the movie of Homecoming was her finding out, but then there was so many other like years in between that movie and this movie that like
Yeah.
you kind of have to like
Consistent.
accept that they have an established like relationship of knowing that, you know. I mean, at this point, I get it. Like 3 years after she found out, or 8 years if you want to count the blip. She's used to it by now, but I kind of would have liked to see her immediate reaction after that and dealing with that.
I think
Because that's kind of a
go
big
ahead.
deal, but you know, I'm fine with it. I'll let it slide because just
I
of
think
the
we'll
time
get some
difference.
heavy stuff in the third one.
Yeah,
because
that
of
is
how
true.
they'll have to
That is
deal with
true.
it. Yeah, and you know,
Yeah.
we haven't gotten serious May yet in these movies, but like we know eventually they're gonna get there. Where like she has to, you know, because we got that's what Raimi movies was all about, was serious May, and Peter, you know, wanted to tell her and all that stuff, and you know there were so many good scenes in those movies, and I think we're gonna get that in the third one.
I think Uncle Happy's just gonna die. That's the new Uncle Ben.
Aw.
Dude, shut up, dude. Don't you
Uncle
put that
Ben's
on
already
and
me.
dead. Don't do that. Tony's
and
dead.
then
John
Can't kill
Favreau shows
Happy.
up to set, he collects his check, and he gets out of there. Okay.
You know what's funny
Don't
is
you put
that
evil in him.
May isn't even in love with Happy. Like by the end of
Yeah,
it,
that's
she's like
wild.
the summer
Happy.
fling. We're just gonna. It's over.
You know what? Happy doesn't have mad game like our boy Ned does. That's all there's to it.
No, he's got
We just
name.
have to
He's got
acknowledge
he's
that.
got name tags. You know?
And then Spider-Man Twitter
That's got
shows
Beast
are gonna
Wars.
get mad that Happy is replacing Uncle Ben.
Oh my god, they're
They're gonna get mad that
You don't let
because
them
they were
get
mad that Tony replaced Uncle Ben or blah 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 blah.
They've already got their Spider-Man 2 copy pasta ready to go. They're gonna be like, Spider-Man 2 is better. Everything.
All right, you know, to end this out, let's
Sick to my stomach.
let's do our top 3 Spider-Man movie rankings.
Ooh,
Oh,
okay.
okay.
I'll-
Okay.
Wait,
Ooh.
I was not
Ooh.
prepared.
Ooh, okay.
I'll
hold
start
on.
out, give you guys some time.
Shit.
If you, I mean, I thought about it, like, but right now,
I think I
haven't
have
seen
mine.
it
I think I
once.
have mine.
Mine is Spider-Man 2, Spider-Man Far From Home, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, which, you know, something I really like is those are all 3 completely different adaptations. See, you can like different things, people. And then 4th would be Spider-Man Homecoming. So, Jackson, you got yours ready?
Yeah, I have mine. Spider-Verse, Far From Home, Spider-Man 2.
Nice.
I think.
Okay.
That's where we're gonna go.
Marcos?
I'm gonna say, yeah, I'm gonna say that Far From Home and Spider-Man 2 are tied, right?
Cheater, but
tied
okay.
for the number 1 spot. Okay. Second, Spider-Verse. Third, Homecoming.
Nice. Jacob?
And you know,
Okay, I've got Amazing Spider-Man 2,
Nice.
Venom,
Nice.
and
All right,
Spider-Man 3.
you're done. You're
Nice.
done.
Nice.
No, okay. Here. I got Spider-Man Far From Home, Spider-Verse, and then I have Homecoming and Spider-Man 2 kind of tied for third.
What, this isn't a top 4. What are you two doing?
Okay, he said top 4.
I mean,
Yeah, well,
my,
you shouldn't have done it. You shouldn't have
it
done
was
it.
just
All
there.
right, Spider-Man Far From Home, Spider-Verse, Spider-Man Homecoming.
Oh,
Okay.
Wow. All right.
Interesting.
You're an MCU shield, but that's all right.
I bet you've never even seen like the original
I am.
trilogy, huh?
Bro, Jacob hasn't seen Booksmart, and it shows. All I know.
God.
Marcos
Dude,
hasn't
it's
paid.
not my fault
Marcos hasn't
Delaware
paid
isn't
for
cultured.
First Man, and it shows.
What is your A24
don't
rankings,
say that.
Jacob?
FBI is
Rank
watching.
all the
Dude,
A24
I've seen maybe
movies.
one.
Have you seen Midsummer? Okay.
I've got Lady Bird.
I bet you guys went and saw
Um,
Spider-Man Far From Home opening night instead of Midsummer, which came out the same day.
You're what's wrong with
You guys
film
are what's
culture.
wrong with the pop.
I saw
culture industry.
Booksmart, okay? And I paid to see First Man. So, hop off.
Okay,
Marcus, did you hear that?
bro, the FBI's watching.
For everybody out there,
Situation.
everybody please blame at Marcos Melendez. Or no, actually no, it's at
Bro, at
BizGamer9.
BizGamer9, yeah.
All right, I got
Give it a
Bizgamer9.
follow. Give it a
Everybody
follow.
go. Don't follow him. Just tag him and say you're the reason First Man failed at the box office. And just
That's fine. If you follow, that's fine.
No, don't follow
I'll
him. Just
retweet, I'll
absolutely
retweet.
Bro,
harass him on
Marcus
Twitter.
was showing me that he
You
was,
probably
he
went
was-
to see Venom,
He was
didn't
trying to
you?
buy a First Man
Bro, I was trying to
steelbook
buy
on
the
eBay.
steelbook. I was willing to spend
But he
like
didn't do it.
$50.
But did you?
Didn't do-
Bro, no, because I'm like, saving money.
You should buy 2 of them
Yeah.
to make up for the ticket you didn't buy.
That's true, actually.
You should
That's
make
true,
a fundraiser to get it back in theaters, and then you
You
probably
should
still
buy
wouldn't
5
see-
tickets to Damien Chazelle's
Where is
next
this
movie.
First
Just
Man
buy 5
re-release?
tickets.
That's true.
I want a First Man re-release with an unfinished scene where it's just a cylinder going into space.
Completely
They don't even have the
unfinished.
rocket.
No CGI.
It's just a cylinder.
All right.
Nice.
I think we're done here. All right, I'll wrap this up. Thank you for listening, everybody. As you can tell, we were all pretty enthusiastic about this movie, but please let us know your thoughts. Comments on this YouTube video. Please like and subscribe, and let us know your thoughts on Twitter. You can follow us at Full Circle Cine on there. You can follow me on Twitter at CalebSod20. Jackson, you want to get out of
you
here?
can follow me at JacksonHayes67. Thank you for listening. Please like, comment, subscribe, and turn on notifications.
Jacob.
Yeah, I didn't know if Marcus did it. Follow me at JacobCamp13. I just had a recent tweet about the Spider-Man fandom, and go like that tweet. Okay.
Stop plugging your individual tweets.
It's kind of funny, honestly. I really thought I was gonna get hate, but like if people are actually genuinely liking it, I find it funny. Like I came with the Spider-Man avies, and they're actually liking it. It's
Marcos,
very weird.
just get us out of here. Don't.
Yeah,
Oh, Marcos,
I don't wanna
guys,
listen
plug.
anymore.
Just follow me at BizGamer9, and that's all you have to do. You don't have to like and subscribe. That's fine.
No, and then harass him for the first man thing.
Yeah.
Honestly, that's
Also,
fine.
if
Can you please cyberbully Marcus for us?
My
please?
impressions
Thank you.
will be better.
if you made it this far, please comment Peter Tingle.
Kumquat.
No, comment Peter Tingle on this video, and we are gonna give you a digital code for First Man.
Marcos will pay
Sponsored
for
by
it himself.
I'll do it. I'll do it.
All right.
I'll buy
if,
it.
if someone actually does it, you have to do it.
I have to do it. Okay.
All right. Thank you for
That's
listening,
amazing.
everybody. Have a nice night or day. Goodbye.
Or midday. Why are you discriminating?
Or midsummer. Watch it in theaters now. Goodbye.